All right, good evening, everybody. Episode 56 of the Hard to Kill podcast. We are with HM1 Jebin. How do you say the last name, brother?
Janae,
Janae.
Janae. How we doing, my friend?
I'm good, man.
So if you could you tell us about your relationship with Chris?
I worked with Chris at my last duty station before I retired.
Okay.
It was both. Yeah, it was both of our. That was my last and his last. So it was a good time.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, whenever we start off a podcast, we always just, like to get into the early stages of you joining the military, why you joined, and take us through that a little bit.
I grew up out in the sticks on a dairy farm and tried college and
Where's the sticks?
uh, small town in Oregon, Southern Oregon.
Okay.
And yeah, I tried college, got into a fire science program. I was going to be a firefighter and partied too much and
I hear you
ended up
there.
joining the Navy.
You don't say.
So yeah, my brother-in-law was actually in the Navy and he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be a firefighter." He said, "Not in the Navy, you don't. You'll be cleaning up spilt oil. What else you like?" I said, "I like emergency medicine." He said, "You want to be a corpsman?" So when I was 19, I went to MEPS and they tried to railroad me into some other jobs and I stuck to my guns and they ended up sending me to the head detailer and he came at me hard and said, "You couldn't cut it in college. What makes you think you can cut it in my Navy as a hospital corpsman?" And I stood up, slammed my hands down on his desk, and told him, "Just because I don't want your fucking shitty job doesn't mean I don't want to be in the Navy. I want to be a hospital corpsman." And he said, "All right, doc, sign here." And I said, "You show me where it says guaranteed corpsman school." And he said, "Oh, calm down, right here." And so, yeah, became a corpsman. And understanding as the option was to go with the Marine Corps. And when I was done with Corps school, they sent us all to Camp Pendleton, 21 area for
Oh,
field
beautiful.
medical service school.
The field man. Yeah.
So what year is this?
This is 94 is when I joined. I went to Field Med, Camp Pendleton, 95.
All right, give us the landscape a little bit. What's going on?
In 95, well, unbeknownst to me at the time, is Bosnia was a hot
Okay.
place. So, in Corps school, we had picked our follow-on duty stations. And then when they said we were all going to combat training, they said, "You still have your orders, you're good." And so finally, after just training to training, I didn't get any leave until I was done with boot camp, corpsman school, and field med. And then finally, they gave me a week of leave, and I got to my first duty station. They said, "You're going to Bridgeport, California, to this cold weather medicine training course." And I said, "Well, hold on, training, training, training." And then then it dawned on me, Bosnia, it's wintertime, and so yeah, I got to see the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center there, and
Oh,
drank a few
beautiful.
Mhm.
beers. Yeah, drank a few
Same here.
beers at the old Pickle
Man.
Meadow Club.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Had my first interaction with the Marine Corps rigs. I was in there with some torn pant legs on my jeans, and we're over playing pool, and we're hammered. I'm E1, and some dude with just a staff shirt comes over and says, "Those pants are unserviceable. You go change them or you're fucking out of here." And I said, "Unserviceable? What the fuck are you talking about? This isn't a uniform item. Get the fuck away from me." And this guy said, "Dude, that guy's a gunny." I said, "I don't know who the fuck he is, but my pants unserviceable." So they actually ran interference. He was coming to throw me the fuck out of there. And this lieutenant went over there and was like, "Hey, it's cool, man. Just let him be." And yeah, that was my first experience with that kind of stuff about Marine Corps regs on civilian attire.
Gotcha. So, all right. So
Yeah.
you get through boot camp, you get through your job schools, you finally get on leave. Is there any scuttlebutt of where the first deployment's gonna be, or
Well, back then the follow-on was supposed to be 18 months at a hospital or clinic to put our skills that we had learned, in Corps school to use. And in the meantime, they realized, hey, if we send them operational first, it really hammers it home for them. And so I kind of got stuck in this void of when they changed the rules. And
okay?
so I fought for a long time to get out of my first duty station because we were only supposed to be there for 18 months. And I ended up being there for almost 3 years.
Oh, geez.
And then I married another service member, and she had orders to Hawaii, and I jumped on a guided missile cruiser out of Hawaii. So I was on the USS Lake Erie for 3 years.
Oh wow. Wow, well, Hawaii must have been wild back then.
Yeah, all my buddies, like in the Army and the Air Force, they all wanted to stay in Hawaii, and I tried to get out of Hawaii, and I got stuck there for 2 tours. I did a tour on the ship,
Okay.
and then I ended up at an intel station.
What's your preference? Would you rather be, on a ship, or would you rather be landside?
Um, I think operational is where it's at, honestly, because you got to deal with all the bureaucracy on shore duty, and
Gotcha.
especially in medicine, there's a lot of rules when you're on shore duty that don't apply when you're operational. You can kind of do what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's kind of similar for like being in the field as a Marine. Gotcha.
Right.
Tracking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm kind of interested on your opinion about this. What do you think about us doing this podcast? I mean, you being an older head, I mean, you guys didn't have a lot of these luxuries. I mean, you didn't get to really talk about the mental health stuff. You guys didn't really get to talk about these things. You really didn't have that back then. What was it? Maybe you had a radio station, attributed to the guys in the field playing your songs, or
Let's
what?
not fuck around. It was 8 tracks, all right.
Yeah, hey, clonk.
But yeah, give me
man.
what
You
you
had to
think about
fast
that,
forward.
man. Is it something that you think is good for you guys, or what do you think?
I think I think that the availability of stuff out there now is much better. I have a lot of family friends that were Vietnam vets, Marines and stuff like that, and those guys just kind of were left hanging. They got spit on
Absolutely.
when they came home, and they saw some fucking horrible shit, and there was no compassion, right? They were the bad people, the baby killers, and we know that even though we're military and you guys being operational and all that, nobody wants to go kill babies and civilians. I mean, there's collateral
Yeah.
damage and there's acceptable losses, but you don't go fucking shoot up the school to shoot up the
No,
school.
no, no.
So
Okay, I hear
I
you.
think the programs out there now is good. Chris knows that I've always been set in my ways, and I don't fuck around. I don't deal with people just whining just to whine. And what really chapped my ass at the end is I had to do all those post deployment health assessments,
Yeah,
TBI
yeah.
and all that shit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, probably 8 out of 10 people I saw fucking had no business even reaching out for that shit. And for me, that sucks because they're taking assets, they're taking funding, they're taking appointment slots from people that truly fucking need that shit.
Yeah. All right, Jeb, let me stop you for a minute and let's backtrack. Okay. So Jebin was my boss actually, and I can do this to him now, not get in trouble for it. But
You did that to me before. Anyway.
so you were what's that?
I said you did that shit anyway.
I know. What can you do? So Jebin was an independent duty corpsman. If you could break that down for the audience, brother. And
So
why did you pick to go that route?
So an IDC is the top. I mean, that's that's the advanced training you can do as a corpsman, and you become the head medical guy on small Marine Corps units, ships, submarines. Sub IDCs have a little bit of a different training track. They have radiation health because they're living with a nuclear reactor. So that surface guys don't have to deal with. But yeah, so we become a primary care provider. And so we're working in the capacity really as a physician assistant. We have full prescribing authority. I can prescribe your meds. I can order your x-rays. I can get you physical therapy, mental health, whatever you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, you were saying, so sorry, because I did interrupt you, man. So my bad. And I interrupted you too, Nick. My bad. But so yeah, the guys and gals, I guess, coming trying to get those benefits just because they're like, oh well, if you say you twisted your ankle this one time, now you can get blah blah blah. Because I know me and you, Jeff, because I used to do physicals and I'd do discharge physicals and I'd have to bring them to you to sign them. So go ahead and keep on going where you were going. with that.
So yeah, man. I mean, there's people out there that truly need shit, and then there's people, and I live in Oregon, man. It's a libtard state now, and people talk about free money, right? Free school lunches. Well, nothing in life is free. We all know that, right? Somebody fucking deployed or broke a sweat or lost some blood to generate that tax revenue to pay for all this shit. And these guys would come in and they free money is all they think, and they want to come in and Chris knows a great story of a guy in his post-deployment health assessment. Were you exposed to a blast? Yes. I bring him in, tell me about this blast you were exposed to, and he says, oh yeah, I was exposed to a blast. I said, well, were you injured? No. Did it knock you off your feet? Did it ring your bell? No. Well, how the fuck were you exposed to a blast? Well, a mortar round hit on the other side of the base. And I just said, bro, that's not exposed to a fucking blast. Get the fuck out of here. But, he wanted to come in and get something for somebody that actually got fucking blown up, and that's bullshit.
You kind of said something before about how people would kind of waste your resources, whatnot. That's something that I kind of triumph behind, being that, I fully use the VA for PTSD, TBI, and different anxiety things. And, I do the groups. I've been there. I've done the groups. I've done independent. I've done private. And sadly, a lot of what I've seen is a lot of people are in there that shouldn't be. And I don't know if that lays on the VA, if that lays on the independent caretaker that needs to divide these better, or maybe we need to go through DD-214s and see where these people have been and what they've been, accustomed to. But I know what they're doing currently really isn't cutting it, because it really either confuses the provider or it makes other people, legit people in the group, not want to really share or put their 2 cents out there because other people are, twisting it. I'm sure you can give me your 2 cents on that. If you could, I mean, tell me what you've seen when it comes to that.
No, absolutely, man.
Let me go first, Jeb. Sorry, brother. No, so you got guys like me, I got fucked up, broke my back, all that fun stuff. You know my medical past. But so Nick took a fucking round off his goddamn Kevlar to the head. Like we've been in the shit, like firefights. Like obviously that gave him a little bit of a concussion, maybe. Nick,
yeah,
what would you say?
One or two.
Yeah. But so yeah, like, and that's another thing we touched on it a few times, me and you, but then a couple other episodes of those people just, I called them, they're like the sucker fish that clean the tank. All they're doing is looking for that little extra. So go ahead, Jeanette, and
so no, I get it.
So answer Nick's
totally
question.
And I get your guys' frustration with that too. People that have legitimate problems, and you're in there, and dude's horror story is that fucking they got rocketed and they had to go to the bunker and his burger got cold, and he's all fucking traumatized by that, and it's like, come on, bro, So yeah, and medical readiness, we've all heard that a lot in the military, right? And I used to always say, who the most medically ready people are your sick call junkies, are your frequent flyers. And so it's the same with you guys with PTSD and all these other things. Who the forgotten heroes are the ones that have all that self-pride and they don't want to reach out to help because they feel that makes them less of a human or less of a man because, I don't want to have to say I need help. And those are the guys that I'm the most interested in. Like, those are the guys that I want to seek out and help. I don't want the guy that's banging down my door every fucking 2 days about, hey, I got a paper cut and, my ears ring.
I was kind of hoping that I was kind of hoping that having legit guys on this podcast really make it easier for guys like that to come out and put their stories out there and go and get the help that they need, because I really feel like that's kind of like an old, not knocking it because these are the people that trained me. It's kind of like an old mindset, man. It's been played out, and unfortunately I've seen these people go through and become the statistic, become the people that end up, taking their own lives because they don't want to put that information out there. They want to be
Yeah.
the strong, silent type that never goes and gets help and always just, takes care of themselves and, always stays combat ready and never, just bottles it all up. And, I'm hoping that me, Doc, yourself can hopefully put our heads together and come up with new ways of making it easier for these people to put themselves out there because I understand it, man. We're strong-minded, we're trained in ways that other people aren't, and we should to a certain degree be able to handle the stresses that are put onto us. But then again, you know, we need to be able to get help that's offered. So I don't know. What would you say are some ways that these veterans that feel like they can't or they don't want to lean on somebody else? What's some advice you would give them?
I would say take out some of the, some of the bullshit of the people that are in the system ahead of them, And again, I go back to you saying you're in a group setting, and it's like your problems are so much greater than these people that are the ones that are speaking out. It's like you don't even want to share your shit because it's going to make them look so stupid. But as far as the healthcare thing from a provider aspect, I would say that it's hard for a provider to stay focused, right? And I equate it to like calling wolf, right? Because you have all these people and you're starting to get desensitized because you got these people that are just full of shit. But as soon as somebody would start coming at me with a good story, I was there, and I would always tell people like, you got something wrong with you, I'm your huckleberry. If you're coming in here to waste my time and try to fatten your record for whatever reason, you got the wrong motherfucker. Have a good day.
Yeah. Dude. So Nick, like I said, it was our last duty station, and so he was my independent duty corpsman. He was my IDC, and I was doing physicals. So it was anything from the sub physicals, like so they could, because they had to get them on every like 2 fucking years or whatever. But I was doing separation physicals, and I'd go take that into his office. He'd be like, "Let me."
Telling Master Chief C9's like, "Look, bro,
I'll bring him in." Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As an E6,
yeah.
telling an E9 like, "Hey, I'm not here to fatten your fucking record." Have a good one.
Yeah. We I don't know how neither one of us got fucking NJP sometimes.
I just squeaked out. I'm good.
Right.
Well,
So
go ahead, bud.
no, go ahead, Nick.
So, what do you? This is kind of a difficult question, but being as you've gotten to the rank that you've got to and gotten to the billet that you've gotten to, what, looking back at it from the position that you're in now and to where the medical community is now, my personal thing that I believe is going to be one of the ways that we're going to be able to help these people more is if we put the right people into positions to help people. When I say that, guys like myself, guys like Doc Martin, guys like you are in the positions to help these people with PTSD, to talk to these people, to make it a comfortable environment for them to talk about their stuff. Because I got to tell you, I've been the person on the other side of things, and the people that I've been talking to are 21-year-old nurses. This is their first position in the VA. They've never done anything like this before. The only experience they have is out of a textbook or from their professor at college. And we can see that. That's something that we can smell. And we know when, maybe the help we're getting isn't the best. And, that's something the VA gets knocked on a lot is, sometimes the VA is the first stepping stone for a lot of these, medical professions and a lot of these nurses and a lot of these doctors. And, maybe the PTSD isn't the best department to hire these, if you would, rookie caretakers or medical providers. But I don't know, man. I mean, I think these are questions that need to be asked, at a higher level by people with a little bit more of a, pay grade or billet than I have right now. But I don't know. That's just something I feel pretty strongly behind. And that's something I talk about a lot. So I don't know.
I think a provider that can relate to you, at least somebody that's been operational, obviously they not necessarily had the exact same experience
No,
you
no,
had,
no.
but people that have deployed and have done those things, like we
Yep.
understand the lingo, we understand the trials and tribulations, right?
And that
Like,
goes a long way with us, dude. The details
yeah,
matter.
yeah. And I'll tell you what we learned in core school is vastly different than fucking when you hit the deck and you start
Yep.
actually doing the job, like I remember when we learned how to do surgical airways, it was like a piece of Velveeta cheese that we cut. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on now,
Yeah.
and I was lucky enough to go to some cool schools with pig labs, and we did
Oh
some
yeah, okay.
Yeah. The
pretty
lab
cool.
tissue and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
So when, if I can go with this, we'll touch back on the mental health stuff because I know Jed, me and you talk, and he,
Yeah.
like I said, he was my boss, but now he's one of my best friends. But so when were you on the VBSS team? Visit board
When
search
I
and seizure.
when I was on
Say
the
that
On the
again.
board
Say that again. What is it?
and visit board search and seizure.
Okay.
So he was in the Gulf on one of those teams.
So it was between the two Gulf Wars, and so we were upholding UN sanctions, and went on deployment in '99 on the Lake Erie, and we actually had a Canadian ship in our battle group. We had a Coast Guard cutter in our battle group, and the Coast Guard actually came and taught us rappelling and ASP training, and pressure points and how to escort a prisoner, law enforcement
Yep.
shit.
Yep.
And so the
Nick was an
teams
MP, so he gets
yeah,
you.
so the teams would take down a ship that was in international waters, and we'd watch these guys on the FLIR from the helicopters loading oil in Iraq, and they'd come out, and if they stay in sovereign waters, they're untouchable. Well, in the Gulf, there's a little finger that goes up called the hat, and it takes 45 minutes to cut across. So they could go up and around and stay out of our jurisdiction, but smuggling time is money, right? It's like it's shipping any goods. So they would 45 minutes, let's do it, and they'd gun it. Well, we'd have some guys out there, and they would take them down, and then we would come on right afterwards and take the ship over from them and take control, secure control of the crew. And we would make them drive the ship down to a holding area where they would auction off the oil and deport the crew.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we would, it was cool. We got to go shake down all their staterooms. I got to dig through all their shit. Found a stack of $100 bills. Like, this is odd. This is out of place. Gas masks under mattresses. Like,
I
why the
have
fuck you need a
empty
gas
pockets.
mask on an oil frigate? So yeah. So that's
Sketchy.
that's the boarding team, and then after we did that, there was that one crew that got captured by the Iranians, and that was like fuck, because the Iranian gunboats were always out there harassing us, but I never thought that they'd come actually capture a boarding team.
Yeah.
When was this?
This was '99.
Huh.
And we always had a ship as Overwatch, so we loved it because our ship would drop. The teams would take down a ship, we'd take over from them, and there was always a NATO ship that was our Overwatch. Okay. And sometimes it was the New Zealanders, sometimes it was the Aussies, and they had beer machines on their ships, and the U.S. Navy's a dry navy. And so yeah, we'd get on there and get a shower.
Allegedly.
Yeah, sometimes we'd be gone for a few days. We'd get on there and get a shower and some clean clothes, and actually let your boots dry. It's pretty nice.
Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead, Nick. Sorry, man.
No, I had nothing. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, so all right. So that was what 99 you said?
Yeah.
So you went from there, and then that's when you became an IDC after that?
I went to an intel station. I tried to leave Hawaii, and detailers in the Navy, as you're coming from an operational unit, you're supposed to have pick of the litter, and I kept trying to go. I always wanted to go overseas. That was always my thing. And growing up on a farm, I'd never really been out of Oregon, saw California a little bit, and they kept not giving me orders. And finally, we have a brand new billet at this intel station, and I said, not interested. Well, that's where you're going. So
Yeah.
I went there, and then actually that's when, you know, Afghanistan, everything kicked off, and a bunch of buddies and I all wanted to volunteer, and I finally got my class date for IDC school. So I was like, shit, you know, go to class, you know, go fucking go down this pipeline and become a better corpsman and be able to do more for people, or go with these guys. And my buddies deployed. It was a good time. Again, being a farm boy, they had to go to ass packing school, and I was laughing pretty good that they were. I didn't realize the Marine Corps still used donkeys, but yeah. One of my buddies was another farm boy from Oregon. He loved it, and then my other buddy was a city boy, and he's like, "Man," I said, "How'd it go?" He said, "If I didn't have so much shit to carry, I'd have shot that motherfucker the first day." So
Yeah, this is old school. This is like the invasion of Afghanistan.
yeah,
So,
yep. So those guys went, and I went to IDC school, and then yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
So where'd you go after IDC school?
Well, during IDC school, they had a team come recruiting for Camp David for presidential medical staff, and I was like, "There's no fucking way that a farm boy from Podunk, Oregon, is going to get this duty." And so I went and sat in the brief, and I didn't meet all their requirements, but I actually thought about it. Went back to my classroom and I thought about it, and I caught one of the guys in the parking lot getting in his car. I said, "Hey, senior chief, I have a quick question." I said, "I have this. Is that worth anything?" And he said, "You're in." I said, "No, I just was curious." He said, "No, you're going." So I was voluntold to go to Camp David. And so, yeah, I went to Camp David for 3 years, served a couple
Took
presidents.
care of all the presidents.
What was your actual billet?
I was an independent duty corpsman at
Okay.
Camp David. So we worked for the White House Medical Office, and the best ranges I've ever been to, because I was used
I mean,
to.
you gotta give me one salty story from that, bro.
Well, I was on my best behavior when I got there, and they all had pretty good sense of humor, man. I remember one of the docs and he had a sense of humor like me, and somehow Mazda Miatas came up, and I said, "Oh, so and so drives," and this was a high-ranking guy. I said, "So and so drives a Miata," and he said, "No fucking way." So he's walking by, and the doc goes, "Hey, I heard you drive a Miata." He said, "Yeah, I bought it way back when it was cool for guys to drive a Miata." And the doc looks at me and goes, "You remember that, Janae?" I said, "Nope." I walked away.
So Camp David's in Maryland, correct?
Yes. And Eighth
Gotcha.
and I is
Yep.
the guys. And so, and that was a cool unit. You know, the higher ups were all seasoned guys that had
So
done
did you live on base there? Or did you live out in town?
I did initially. I lived in the barracks there, and then I moved out in town.
That now is that 11th Street,
I don't know what you're talking about.
right? I'm talking 8th and I barracks.
Yeah, I never went down to their barracks down there, but
Oh, okay,
they
gotcha.
would hand select guys from
Gotcha.
there. I don't know how much.
I only asked
I don't
because
know
I've
how
been
much
down.
I should get in. Yeah, I don't want to get into too much detail. I don't need any visits.
Gotcha. Okay. So take us on a timeline of maybe after Camp David. What did we get any deployments over to the Middle East at all, or?
I did not. So when I was at Camp David, my dad was diagnosed with leukemia,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
again, them having a farm, 200 acres. I knew that. Yeah, there's 5 kids in the family. There's 2 boys. I'm the second oldest kid, and my brother is the youngest. So it was always kind of known that if something ever happened to him, there's no way that my mom could handle stuff. And so that was always on the back of my mind through my whole career, is I could have to walk away from this. So when I was leaving Camp David, that happened, and I was like, well, let me figure out what's going on with him. And so there was an isolated overseas tour on the island of Crete in Greece. And so 1 year isolated, and so I went there.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And I actually did a little bit of the anti-piracy stuff with NATO. They have a training base there.
Oh, wow.
And then I was only there for a couple months, and they needed somebody to go to Guantanamo Bay for detainee operations.
Oh, no.
And they said, "Hey, we can't make you go, but if you go, we'll extend you here for another year." And I said, "Well, I joined the Navy to see the world. Let's go see Cuba."
Sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a trip. Yeah, I had to go to prison training with
Would you
the
say
army.
G-Bay was busy at the time you were there?
Yeah, I was quite busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was one of three providers for all of the staff. There was two army providers and myself. And one of the army providers was a physician assistant who was an ex-spec war guy who got hurt, and they gave him some options on jobs he could have, but he couldn't continue on the current job he had. And then an army physician, and we shared a 10 by 10 office.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you take that mission to go to Vietnam? Because that's
When
a
I was
big
at Bangor,
and
yeah,
I
my
want
last duty, my
I
last.
want yeah. I want people to know that because dude, that was a badass. Yeah. All right, Jeb. So where we left off was the Vietnam
Yeah.
going there. So
So
if you
yeah,
pick up on that.
so yeah, again, as corpsmen, as we all know, there's always like times when they need medical coverage for other things, especially with IDCs. So my last hoorah at Bangor Clinic, and got the tasker of we need somebody to go on a mission, and it wasn't originally to Vietnam, but I ended up going to Vietnam and with JPAC out of Hawaii, which is the unit that's tasked with actively trying to recover remains of missing service members and bringing them back home to be reunited with their families, and like give the families closure, right? And that's something that I felt a lot of pride in being part of. And one of the things
Yeah,
I'm proud that our government has kept that promise that they'll bring our guys home, and to see that they're still actively bringing people home from far past conflicts is pretty cool. So yeah, I
yeah.
went to Vietnam. There were a whole bunch of dig teams. I was part of one 13 member dig team, and I was the medical guy. And we had a civilian anthropologist and totally joint. The team leader was Army, EOD was on my team, EOD and comms was Air Force. And yeah, it was pretty cool. We camped in the jungle for a month, hired a bunch of villagers, and we were digging an F4 Phantom crash site, looking for two people. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And we set up a big, story. It's hard work, right? You're in the jungle, it's hot, it sucks, but to keep it in perspective for everybody is there's a storyboard every day when you walk into the job site of pictures of the two people and the story of their plane going down. And so no matter how bad it sucks and how tired you are, is that every day you walk into the job site, is it keeps it in perspective of what you're there for. And
Yeah, it's kind of like fucking. I'm sweating, but it ain't that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you're
I get that.
embracing the suck, and that's what it is, and again, being an old farm boy, man, running hand tools was second nature to me, and I was shocked how many people didn't have a clue how to run a pickaxe, and
Yeah,
it
yeah, I
ended
get
up
you.
being me and this big
And
army guy who was mortuary affairs. Him and I were like, we were the go team when they needed to move some serious dirt. Him and I got in there, and
is
it's
he the one next to you in that picture you sent me?
he's
Because
the
you're
real
in. I
big
mean,
bald
you're in.
guy with tats.
All right, because you were in civies, so and all
Yeah.
you guys were. So it'll be on this episode. So, oh yeah,
Yeah. No,
it's shit.
yeah. I had used like a hoe in the garden as a kid, like a little garden hoe. Well, they have
Mm-hmm.
some over there that it has like almost like an axe head, and it flares out. And
Yeah,
we
the
called it
one
an
little.
Asian.
Yep.
Yeah, we called it an Asian hoe. But it had like a hand whittled. It had
Well,
a hand whittled handle on it and shit like that. And I would get in there and I'd be hitting rocks and shit. So when I was done, the edge of it was all crinkled. So I named it Thunder Pussy. And they were talking about giving me the head off that hoe when I left.
of course you did. Of course you did.
No,
Ladies
it
and
was
gentlemen of Hard to Kill that are watching, this man used to be in charge of me.
yeah,
Oh,
master
good
of
times,
nothing.
man.
No, it was really
Yeah.
cool. My dig team did not find any remains. Other dig teams in Vietnam during our mission found remains, and so when we got back to Da Nang to fly out, we did the whole ceremony with the flag, draped coffin, and we
Yeah.
brought our dress uniforms, and it was something that I was very proud to be a part of, and it really struck an chord with me on bringing these guys home and giving their families closure finally, instead of just being missing.
Absolutely, man. And I know, obviously, and I appreciate you bringing that up on the podcast because obviously me and you talked about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. And that's, to me, like, even after 2 tours, man, and, doing the damn thing in Afghanistan, doing all that, that right there, fuck, man. I don't know if I could have stomached it, like, as far as, well, not stomached it, that's probably the wrong way to put it, but because I don't know, man. That's emotional as shit. I mean, that's like even you were talking about earlier. Even if it's just some remains, that's still getting it back to the family, and they can get a proper burial. And dude, that's fucking deep, bro. Like that's heavy, and that's a fucking badass mission. Honestly, like I wish I would have been there because you did that before I got to Bangor. So
Yeah, and then when I got
yeah,
my
I wish
when I
I
got
could
my
have fucking went with you.
yeah, and then when I got my performance evaluation, they told me that wasn't really any kind of a deployment or any kind of a mission. So the X-ray tech got a higher evaluation than I did. That he stayed in the clinic
I
and
won't even.
shot film. So
I
anyway,
won't
yeah,
even.
no,
I won't
you know what,
even say his
but
fucking name. I know who you're talking about, brother. I know who you're
but to me
talking
that's
about.
irrelevant. But that's irrelevant to me because no Navy evaluation is ever going to replace what I felt, and the honor I felt, and again, not having family friends that are Vietnam veterans, and for me to, especially
Yeah,
here in rural Oregon, a lot of our veterans are Vietnam veterans, and for me to say, when they say, "Oh, I was in Vietnam," and hey, I went to Vietnam in 2012, and they're like, "What?" I went over there searching for some missing guys from the war. And I'll tell you what, those guys, they appreciate the shit out of that. Like
yeah,
their brothers
hell yeah,
weren't just left. They're the brothers, that sacrificed all, that whole saying, some all gave some gave all. Like we didn't just leave them laying in the jungle over there. Like we're still bringing them back. And
yeah.
the big concentration is on Asia because the soil is so acidic. There's not a lot left, because it eats bone.
Mm-hmm.
But JPAC is active around the world. They do, they have dive teams. They're diving, they'll go dive a plane wreck in the ocean. And, it's like the extent that they go through to
Yeah,
bring
they'll go
guys
dive the
home.
ships and shit. Like, yeah, they'll go dive the subs and shit that got hit even back in World War II.
Yeah. I can think of a lot of fucking federal funding that could be cut, and that ain't one of them. Like that's
Yeah,
something that I'm
no,
glad
like,
that I'm
dude, like
happy
I
as a
told you, man,
taxpayer.
like,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, and fucking no. I was telling you, like, that's a badass mission. I wish I'd been there when you got asked to do that. Yeah, I would have been like, need a junior corpsman. I'm
Yeah.
coming with you. I'd be like, hey, Jeff, or I'm sorry, HM1, can I come too? Me, junior corpsman. Throw me in, dude. Throw me in. Put me in, coach.
And me, it's hard being the medical guy, right? Because you can never be in harm's way because I'm the one guy for 13. So right away, the team sergeant was like, "Doc, let me talk to you." And he's like, "You can't be helping the EOD tech dig hits. How the fuck am I going to explain how the medic was killed digging fucking EOD hits?" And same thing with the
Oh,
changer.
dude.
they wouldn't let me run the chainsaw, and I'm watching people that have no chainsaw experience, and I ended up being the guy that maintained the chainsaw because I grew up running them, you know.
Yeah. Oil in the blade and all that. You're like, you're just gonna burn this fucking thing out. Let me do it.
And then the
Just
friendly,
like, on me next deployment, it. No, go ahead. Sorry, Jeb. Go ahead.
oh yeah, no, and then you had all the friendly banter because it was a joint operation, right? So we had the friendly banter of we're all brothers in arms, but we love to razz each other, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
the Marine we had was a photographer, and then one day I overheard him trying to be all tactical and talk shit to the Army guys, and I just said, "What the fuck are you talking about? What are you gonna do? Shoot him with your camera, motherfucker?" Whatever, Doc. He was cool. He was cool as a fan. Don't get me wrong, but it was just that shit was fun, man. And there were some Army females with us that after we worked all day, they'd come back and do CrossFit, and I fucking certainly was not one of them. But I earned a lot of respect with those guys because every day we had to carry our food and water, and I carried my food and water, and I carried the med bag. And then finally, after a couple of days, the team sergeant's like, "Somebody fucking help Doc." He's carrying everything you're carrying plus all the fucking shit to help you. So help him out.
Yeah, spread load it. Like, come on.
So, Jeb, if you don't mind me asking, what do you think about some of these current events that are going on right now?
I think it's crazy, man. And that I kind of wanted to try to pivot back to your whole cause, and what you're trying to bring light to is the help for the guys that been through the shit and are having issues, and part of that is this new soft on everything approach is not conducive for you guys. And that's kind of the same thing with those guys crying wolf. Like, if we don't coddle these people, if you get berated to where and I understand that can drive some guys away that need help, but we got to weed out these guys that are part, the old
Faking
days
the funk.
say, you got sand in your pussy, you're making pearls.
No, absolutely. And something that I feel strongly about is these hard conversations need to be had, because uh, there's something about suffering is you learn from it. It teaches. Pain teaches, and if you fail to go through these, crucibles, or these learning experiences, you're never going to grow. And that's unfortunately, in this day and age, they're kind of they're pivoting away from it. They're choosing to be soft when you need to, you need to push. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take for these people to understand that, but I mean, these hard conversations need to be had. Just period.
Can you imagine if we all quit when shit got hard, right?
Nothing would happen.
We wouldn't have anything to talk about today, right?
Well,
and quit and went home, took our ball and went home, and go get your free lunch and your fucking free phone, and all this other shit.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's tough.
Sorry to interrupt you, buddy.
No, you're good, bro.
No, so Nick, and like this for the audience too. I went through some shit. Jebin was right there with me, and so I was going through hell, and didn't even sidestep. He was like, "I'm right here, brother." Like, even though he was my leading petty officer, he was my boss. He was like, "Yeah, you kind of fucked up a little bit right there, but I got you." And yeah, so that's saying something. So this is a guy right here, everybody that's gonna watch this. This is a guy right here that literally would give you the shirt off his back to fucking help you, and be
if
like,
you needed
okay, what can I do? Yeah, if you need it, yes. If you deserve it, it is a good word.
Yes.
But so I just want everybody, the audience, when you guys watch this, I just want you to know that about this gentleman right here. Even though he's got like a gray ass beard, and he's getting fucking old on us.
You can see my ball fro.
I have, sadly.
That's that tough love we were talking about, or is it hard love?
Depends on how you take it. But no, and so I didn't want to like step on Nick's toes on this, but I just wanted to throw that out there so everybody knows how fucking awesome you are. And because I've experienced it firsthand on the way you take mental health and how much like you're not just like, oh, cool being a pussy. You know how much it means. So that's fucking good, dude. So I'll go back to Nick. Sorry,
Thank you.
buddy.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm glad I had a profound
I love
effect.
you.
Love you too,
I'll
bro.
kiss you on the mouth next
I
time I
don't
see
know
you.
about that. I don't know. I think I'd rather eat an MRE than that. But it's all good.
Well, I think,
Listen, if you get
I think more important, he has, he has a billet, and he's been there in the positions that have needed to administer this stuff. So as someone that's been in these positions and these billets, give us some of your knowledge that you have, man. What do you think some of the medical professionals now should be doing, should be administering to these guys? What are some things that they could, I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, you have the experience, man, and that goes far. So what's something that you think that, people nowadays, instead of coddling, instead of, over prescribing medications, what do you think something that should be administered to guys nowadays struggling with this stuff?
Well, I mean, I want to point out that I have my bachelor's degree in healthcare management and I have my master's degree in public health, and I got those while I was active duty. So,
Mhm.
I'm not just some chump just shooting off the cuff, right? And I have the real world experience too. And mental health has a place, but mental health is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's one of those business like being a drug dealer, right? As long as you keep peddling your shit, you got people to come back. And I think they're too quick to throw medication at people. And mental health meds are kind of a shaky street, man. I would prescribe, antidepressants to people, but I always gave it to them, hey, this is like when you sprain your ankle, I give you some crutches for a little bit. I don't expect you to be on this antidepressant the rest of your life, because
Yeah,
we need to get to the root of the problem. You can't just give them medication. That's the easy thing, and you know what? That generates money for them.
that's a
And
big one right there.
yeah, and that's not the answer. And at
Yeah.
the end of my career, and Chris knows this, my career was at small. I was never at big hospitals. I was always at small clinics and shit like that. And it was usually a physician that was in charge of the clinic. So you have somebody that's actually doing the job that is running the clinic. Well, where I retired from, we had two admin officers for a tiny ass clinic. Well, admin officers, they're not seeing patients. It's that whole thing of somebody's telling you how to do shit, but they're not the ones doing the job. They don't know that. Oh, you're gonna go pour concrete, and they're like, oh, you need a cement mixer. Well, yeah, we need a fucking cement mixer,
Yeah. No. See,
And
you
that's
got a
what.
little lucky.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No,
No,
go
no,
ahead,
no.
man.
No. I was going to say you got a little lucky there at the end because you had Jesse. You had
Yeah,
Shaw,
yeah,
and he was a ride or die too. Even though
yeah.
obviously he had his issues just like all of us did. But
Yeah,
yeah, you got a little lucky there.
but he was a physician that got in the profession to help people, not to generate income. And that was what it
Yep.
was getting to in the
Yep.
end, is with those admin officers. And, as a provider, we would spend 2 to 3 times the amount of time documenting than we did with the patient. And that's a problem. I love seeing the patients, but it pissed me off when I'd get home, at 1800 and my day is supposed to end at 1600. Why? Because I needed to finish my documentation. And it's all about click this button and oh, you talk to them, you need to code that as you gave them counseling.
Yeah.
And it's all just these fake numbers. And I kind of had that hard conversation with a few of the nurses and stuff, like, look, we're socialized medicine, the checks are already cashed, we're not generating income, so what the hell are we doing?
It's
And
funny, you saying that has kind of got me, because I got into kind of a situation recently, and it made me see that we've become a very litigious society, and it's almost getting away from actually helping people. it's almost like we don't even listen half the time. It's more they're more worried about hitting a number. They're more worried about covering an ass, more worried about not getting themselves in trouble than actually helping these individuals, which is a scary thing to see, especially when you're on the other side of things. And can that even be helped from one person saying something, or is that something that I think we just need to talk about and make people self-aware and make people actually see these things are happening? Because if you're
Yes,
not going
yes,
through
yes.
these experiences, you're not going to know about it. I mean, before I went through this experience that I'm referring to right now, I had no idea about it. Like I didn't understand that the medical society has become such a pussy-footed organization that is so afraid of actually helping someone because you could possibly get a little backlash. You could possibly get a little bit, yelled at or in trouble, but you actually might help that person. And we've become so focused on punishing people for things that they can't even help people anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah, it goes.
dude. And so, sorry, Jeb, I'm going
You
to
two
go
are
first
killing
and
me
then
right now.
you
One of,
roll.
one, one of you's got to, Chris, don't worry
I
about
know.
interrupting him. Just get it off and then let him get
Yeah,
it
just
off.
get it.
So, no, like
Stop
you were
rubbing around
saying,
the
it's all
edge.
about
Put it in.
numbers. It's all about numbers, dude. It's the ICD-9 codes. That's all they
Yeah.
fucking care about.
Well, and you have an admin officer that is not a physician that's berating a physician, somebody that's gone to school half their lives, with the Hippocratic oath of to help peoples and do no harm and all that other shit. And you've got these admin people that, and I love telling people in the civilian medicine, you've got good providers and good medical staff out there that they're in the job because they truly want to help people. And then you got the other people that are in it just for the money. And we always joked around when people go, oh, I had a shitty doctor. Well, you know what they call the guy that finished dead last in medical school is doctor.
Yep.
Not everybody's good, just like corpsmen. There's good corpsmen, there's bad corpsmen. There's people that give a fuck, there's people that don't give a fuck. And yeah, unfortunately, in the big scheme of things, it's all numbers and money. And unfortunately, the attorneys have kind of ruined the US, right? I mean, if something bad happens to you, you just sue somebody and you retire because, you're a millionaire. And so practitioners have to practice defensive medicine. Not that you're going to sue them, but they have to practice medicine with the fear that you will if anything goes wrong.
So that's
And
that's almost become the reason people don't want to practice actually helping
yeah,
people because they're worried they're pussyfooting around, a lawsuit, basically.
and then all the insurance stuff too. The old days of the doctor, the old small town doctor where you go in and you bring them a pig for your visit, or it's a $50 visit. With insurance, you need an army of staff to just navigate all the fucking bureaucracy that comes into that, so he can stay open, right? And Oregon again is a big one where a lot of people are on the Oregon health plan, and it's like you have to accept them. They're going to pay you less than what you would from somebody off the street. So yeah, it can't be just a doctor and a nurse running a medical clinic anymore. And, even to have a medical, for me to open like an exam room, I have to meet all this criteria, right? The hands-free sink and all this. And for people that have been operational, we know that I can do sutures in the fucking dirt, and you're going to be okay. I don't need $100,000 room with a hands-free sink to do sutures on you. And unfortunately, that's where it's at. And my great example of that is when I was on Crete in Greece. My Greek friend took me up in the mountains, and it's a one-lane road with two-way traffic, and there's no guardrail, and it's hundreds of feet off this cliff. And I said, hey, Soterides, how come they don't have a guardrail over here? For what? I said, so you don't go out there. He said, my friend, we put the road here for you to drive on. If you want to drive out there, that's on you. And I said, fucking amen, brother. Yeah. I said in the US, you'd get sued. Somebody would drive off there, it'd be your fault. You didn't have a guardrail to keep them on the road.
Yep.
So, what, if you don't mind me asking, what are someone with as much knowledge and experience as you? I mean, I was almost thinking that you would start your own practice or do something like that. What nowadays is something that you want to do, or what do you want to apply yourself to?
When I was retiring, I was kind of like, I'm done with medicine. And it's funny because President Bush's physician, General Tubb, when Bush was leaving office, I asked the general, I said, sir, what are your plans? going to private practice? And he said, nope, I've had one patient for the last 7 years and I'm fucking burned out and I'm done. So I kind of, I got to play all this stuff, but then I wanted to move back to Podunk, Oregon. And what's a job that you can get anywhere, any town you want to live in is physician assistant is the closest thing to what I was. And I looked into that, and I actually took a couple classes at Olympic Community College, and they treated me like I was an 18-year-old kid right out of school with no experience. And I was pretty blown away with that because I already had a bachelor's degree and I'd completed my master's degree, and I just needed to take a couple classes. Oh, you got to take the placement test. Oh, it's been 2 years since you took this math class. We need you to take it again. And I was just like, no fucking way. Wow. So yeah, and just tonight on the news, they're talking about a big shortage of healthcare providers. And, and when I first checked in with the VA, I told my VA doc what my experience was. And he said, you want to see patients? And I said, hell yeah, I think that would be the smart thing to do. And I don't want the difficult shit. Like, yeah, I'll come see your strep throat guys, your sick call guys, but they don't do that. And you guys, you guys are all used to seeing our type of care, and it's just not out there. There's nothing for us when we get out. And so, yeah, that's it.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, because I had my paramedical license when I got out, and I couldn't find a job to save my damn life. If I went back right now, research as a paramedic, they'd be like, you got to go through the course again. I'm like,
and we'd run circles around nurses, or at least man the VA with it. Because again, these guys, these veterans, that's what they're used to anyway. So, like, why not continue that? It's not, they try to paint it out that we're doing you a big disservice, but you've been in the system and I've been in the system, and you and I both know that that's bullshit. We've had better care in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Well, and that's the thing. And me and Nick have brought it up on the podcast before. We talked about it, and people shit on the VA and all that, but dude, they're just understaffed and fucking underpaid and undertrained too. Nick brought that up earlier.
And that's being military. We can only do what the bosses let us do too, right? We're just the front people that are eating the shit sandwich, but we're not. I mean,
it's got to have something to do with them not wanting to pay. I mean, get everything for a bottom dollar. Sadly, budgets get cut. If they're not met each year, they grow smaller and smaller. And that goes with overprescribe. It's almost if they don't do one, they have to get the other. If they don't overprescribe, hit their numbers, their budget gets cut. And what are you going to do? I mean, it's an ugly system.
Pharma runs a lot of that, and I see that a lot now that, I'm surrounded by civilians and civilian healthcare and all that other stuff is, we only gave narcotics to you if you absolutely needed it. But, like on a ship, you're already in a dangerous environment. You're going up and down steep, we call them ladders, but they're just steep ass stairs. You fall down that shit sober. And so we gave narcotics only if it was absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And
you could pull a Biden on it.
No, I've gone to a civilian ER, and they just came in, didn't say a word, and pushed something into my into my hep lock or my saline lock, and I said, well, now that you just fucking gave me something, do you mind telling me what it was? Oh, that was morphine. I didn't ask for morphine. I didn't rate my pain enough to get morphine, but that's their thing. It's big pharma runs a lot of this, it's all kickbacks. And unfortunately, like a lot of the US we're seeing is money trumps everything. And we used to have better morals than that. We used to have stronger convictions than, not all money's good money,
Facts.
Yeah.
So I like that last bit of 15 minutes we had just addressing some of the issues that are going on right now. I mean, I don't think they're voiced enough, because it's almost like people are afraid of like talking about the things that kind of talk down upon their work, because who can really change these things? It's not one person. It's almost like these things have just gotten worse and worse over time, because as if things aren't addressed, they just grow like a cancer. And no one really has stepped up to big pharma. I mean, it seems like it's taken over the the medical field significantly, and it's just money. It really is. It's just money, you know. I mean, look at pain meds. They've absolutely taken over, and I mean, it's not one thing or another. I mean, it started at OxyContin. Now it's at a point where it's fentanyl, and it seems like the people that made that also figured out, oh, hey, we can also make money off the cure, which is what, Suboxone, and then people get hooked on Suboxone or methadone. It's a crazy cycle that seems like it's absolutely taking over right now, and I don't know exactly whoever creates them. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be another miracle drug that comes out that treats that or this. But it's almost like there's no money in the cure. There's no money on fixing people. That's not how these companies are going to get paid. You know, they're just going to get paid off people taking something over and over and daily. So it's kind of, honestly, when you actually talk about it and really to people that have a brain, it's kind of sad because what are we going to do?
We the people, man, I mean, look at COVID, it's another standard thing, and it's funny to me that us in the military, we know regulations are regulations, and it chaps my ass to no end when they're constantly talking about needing to pass new laws, right? For politicians to trade in stocks. That insider trading has always been illegal, right? Conflict of interest is a real thing in the
Has it
military.
been? Has it been?
If
Is
your
it though?
husband is
Yeah.
buying stocks in something that you're going to sign off on, that's fucking insider trading. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? That's
Facts.
conflict of interest. And how often have we seen good military officers relieved for loss of confidence, right? And we don't see that with our politicians. We don't see that in these federal agencies that have been politicized. They're supposed to work for us. They're supposed to be our check and balance, right? The FDA making sure our food and drugs are safe. The USDA is inspecting our meat and making sure it's safe. And
I feel like checks and balances has become so uh inflated with money. It's no longer a checks and balances. It's pay this much and we'll check the box, basically.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, and there's good documentaries out there. Cockfight is about the chicken industry, and it goes into just how that is. We've gone away from mom and pop. Every town has their own butcher shop, and they have their producers. As they've got it to where there's these big corporate producers, right? So most of our meat is produced by like 3 or 4 giant producers. My parents do certified organic beef, grass-fed beef.
Yep.
My dad has to haul the cows 4 hours away is the nearest kill floor that has an inspector. A USDA inspector has to be there to certify it. He has to haul them from the green pasture where they're munching on their grass. He has to haul them 4 hours up there, get them slaughtered, and they do all the cutting and everything. And then he has to go up there and pick them up and bring the meat back.
wow.
It's an 8-hour trip for that meat. And
Yeah. Well, that's an 8-hour trip. Slaughtering fucking cattle, like that's a whole day's worth of work right there on top of all that. And he's got to sit there and wait. Like,
yep. And growing up out here, there used to be a butcher shop, every couple miles there was a butcher shop, and there were kill floors. And when I was doing my master's degree, right, in public health, one of the things was about the big meat processing plants. And back in the day was a big cattle producer, got put in a position in the FDA, right? So conflict of interest. You got a guy who's got buddies in the industry, and then he's supposed to be checking his buddies, right? And why do we keep having, recalled meat and all that other stuff? Because those big processing plants, just the sheer amount of animals that they produce there is their bioburden. Medical guys know what that is, right? The bioburden is much greater with infectious things. Yeah. And instead of Billy Bob, killing his pig in his backyard and hooking it up, nobody gets sick from that. You can even eat it raw. So,
yeah, no shit.
So yeah, I mean, it's whenever you're reliant on big corporate for stuff, the fewer people involved is the more corrupt it can be. And big pharma is a powerhouse, man. It really is. I don't know how to crawl out from under that.
I
And
feel like
you know,
right now it's military industrial, the the pharma system, and who knows what's in between the two. But I mean, it seems like right now we have to. There's never a time that we're not in conflict, and it seems like the medical field is right next to that, because if people are in conflict, people are dying, people are getting hurt, meds are getting prescribed. Kickbacks, kickbacks, kickbacks.
yeah, it's all
Yeah.
ugly. And fentanyl is a crying shame. I love telling people here when they're like, "Oh, fentanyl, fentanyl," and I'm like, you know what? Fentanyl was cutting edge. You know,
Yeah.
when the new global war on terror kicked
Wait, so do
off, like,
you remember when that first started coming around?
yeah, the fentanyl lollipops for the
That's what it
line
was.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You got shot, and you know, doc would come over there and be like, "Okay,
Yeah.
here's the lollipop. Suck on this until you're not in pain anymore. Put the wrapper back on and put it in your breast pocket. And then when you start hurting
Really?
again, pull it out and suck on the lollipop again." It was a game
Or
changer because
the
you didn't need
original
doc.
way.
Yeah, you didn't need doc there giving you morphine
What
like in
year? What year
Vietnam,
was this? Do
right?
you remember?
So this is in
No,
my era.
yeah, this is like
It,
early. This is like the new global war on terror. So the second Gulf War, you know, and all that kicked off. Fentanyl lollipops came out like not too long after, and that was a
it was
big deal.
normally it was first issued to the soft units, special operations, but then we got it. And what you do, like how we were trained on it at first, you duck because it's a fucking lollipop.
Yep.
Looks like one of them little suckers you get at the gas station or whatever. But so you tape the stick to their finger, throw it in their mouth, and then when they passed out, their hand would go like that, so they're not getting the fucking fentanyl anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Wild.
Keep as many hands and as many guns as long as possible. You know,
Yeah,
suck on that lollipop, put it in your pocket, fucking return fire. You start hurting again, swap
yeah.
mag, suck on your lollipop, and let them have it.
But and
Well, and
now
then they
look
started
where
getting
we
into
are.
You know, I got to see. So when I went to combat training with the Marines, we were, you know, Vietnam era, Korean War era, you know, the old battle dressings, other side towards
yeah,
wounds. You know, they were like big giant fucking diapers with, you know, that
yeah.
green shit. You had to tear it.
The
We had
Israeli
all that.
dressings. Oh,
So, you know, the second Gulf War was huge as far as medicine goes because the gear that we had, right? The cat tourniquets. I mean, there's so much shit. The Israeli dressings, like all
yeah,
this shit was like so revolutionary because I was initially trained on all that bullshit. I mean, we had the Vietnam, the old hair traction splints, the what would they
geez,
call them?
yeah,
Thomas half
yeah,
rings or whatever. It was like
yeah,
some
yeah,
bullshit with a
yeah,
coat hanger sticking off the end, you know, for
yeah.
a femur fracture. Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I got to see all the new gear roll out, you know, the interosseous and you know all that, the crite
Oh
kits.
yeah. The go
No,
fucking IO. Ooh.
yeah, all that shit was huge, man. So we made huge strides as far, you know, as far as taking care of our guys, the shock trauma platoons, you know, the old days of
Mm-hmm.
having the BAS like MASH, you know, you had to fucking get hauled way to the rear before you got any, you know, definitive
Yep.
care.
Yep.
Yeah. Those
Yeah,
old
man, to have those
STPs,
shipping
man, they
containers,
were
guys, for you to fucking get, you know, go get external fixation on your compound femur fracture, you know, within what, a half a mile of the front is, it's all been huge. So we've made huge strides in that, but I feel that we've slipped on a lot of other shit, you know. And you know, I have a good friend that's a federal law enforcement officer, and he was saying, "Oh, it looks like things are heating up around the world." And I said, "Well, the thought of open conflict is pretty scary for me right now. You
Yeah,
know, like
absolutely. Of
act a draft." I said, "We're going to be sending over drug addicts and chicks with dicks and
course.
boys with boobs. You know, like
Yeah.
that's kind of what we have to offer. You
Yeah.
know, instead of, you know,
You know,
guys out there with
something
their K-bar in their teeth, fucking diving through the hedge, going, "What? Who's
yeah.
next?" You
something
know,
They're
that's
not taking our old asses.
yeah, these guys be running away in their pink pumps, going, "Oh God, what's up with the negative energy?" You know.
something that's
Next
really
to
that's really
sorry
blowing
to
me away
interrupt you,
right
man.
now is that these people that dog on just how the world is, you know, not not being able to be open about gender equality or dogging about just I guess the alpha mentality is under attack as of
Yeah.
late. The alpha mentality made it so you can complain, even have an open forum, even be able to argue without getting your throat slit and buried in the back. Because ask a lot of these immigrants that came to our country because their country wasn't doing so well. They can't talk about this stuff. They can't even think about this stuff without getting disappeared. And for them to just dog so openly on and not realizing that freedom of speech really only exists in certain parts of the world, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
when and for them,
Absolutely.
and just what you said is say there is some kind of open conflict and there is a draft. Honestly, to me, my eyes weren't really opened until I did some traveling, until I saw, oh, this is, you know, this is what's going on. It becomes a lot realer to you when you start seeing that America isn't the world, you know, like, and that's honestly, sadly, what it's gonna take for a lot of these. And think about it, who are these people? What age demographic is this? Usually, it's what, fresh into college or just about to get
Yeah.
out, that everyone
Like
has these huge
19,
issues
19
with
to
these things.
23,
Yeah, and it's
around
and
there.
it's because they haven't left. They don't. They're reading everything out of it. And honestly, if that's what the educational system is breeding and making, whoa, that's scary, man. I mean, I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like,
Well,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
No,
You're fine.
like, so I just had my little sister. She's 19. Her boyfriend's 20. And, she's in college and he works on a road crew. Like, he's a good kid. He's a good kid. He didn't die. He stayed at my house for a couple of nights and I didn't shoot him. So good for him. Um,
You didn't try to touch your naughty bits.
well,
I don't think you're allowed to
but
have a gun.
it's Colorado and I have a concealed carry permit. Yes,
Oh,
I'm
I'm
allowed.
sure. I'm sure there's
But
some
no,
new
like
rule.
that's my thing. I forget who the fuck said it, dude.
We have a rule you
But
shouldn't have
with
a gun.
do what?
I said we have a rule you shouldn't have a gun.
Yeah, right.
Just
Well,
kidding.
should I get rid of all of them then? But no, like, so Nick, you were talking about like alpha males. That alpha males, I mean, what the fuck would like the Bravos do? What would they do? You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you know what you need? You need alpha males. You need someone to fucking protect you.
And what do they teach you in
And
combat training, right? Aggression. It's what do you do in a close ambush, right?
yeah,
You don't
no
fucking run.
violence.
You don't wrap your big feathery boa around you and go fucking crawl into your pink tent and
No,
fucking
you
be like, leave
push
me alone.
push out of the kill zone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
violence of
fucking
action.
get it. Fucking charge them.
Violence of fucking action.
Exactly. And that's not a thing. Now violence of action is like, you don't like my pink pumps, I'm gonna punch you. Different violence of action. People can't
Yeah.
use their words anymore. They
I mean,
just get,
yeah, I mean, you joke, but sadly, that's exactly what it is.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
But
scary, man.
look at Israel right now. Look at France with COVID lockdowns. Like other countries that have been around, and I love it when the U.S. is, and I'm not knocking the U.S., but when the U.S. is telling people how to do shit, and we are the model for freedom, but some of the shit that we think is new cutting shit that we want to try, they're like, we tried that 3,000 years ago. That shit don't work. But look at what they did. They all take to the streets. It's not one or two people out there. And unfortunately, we've all become timid, and only these bad actors are the ones that are taking the streets.
Yeah, I know. I know.
And our
And
society is supposed to be majority. That's our freedom is supposed to be the majority, not the minority. And that's not a racist thing. Is what works for the majority? What is the consensus? Well, if 9 out of 10 people say that we're going to do this, that's the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to fixate on that one person that's like, well, I like I like mini skirts and pumps. Well, cool. Go do that on your own.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a heterosexual. I don't jump up and down on the hood of my truck and
Because
yell,
you're
I love
not. Yeah,
pussy and you must
exactly.
recognize me.
Exactly.
You got to call me by he, him, and, like he who carries the dick, like we don't demand
Fucker.
recognition like that. And that's a problem when, there's this
Yeah,
demand. Go do you. As long as you're not
Exactly.
hurting kids, as long as you're not hurting kids and animals, I give a fuck what you do. Just don't do it on the street.
exactly.
Do it in your own home.
Yeah,
We don't care if
you
people
can't get
getting,
mad at
If,
us for just not agreeing with you. Like
yeah. Yeah, if you like wearing a diaper and getting your butt spanked, like do that in your home and nobody knows. Like, hey, good on you, brother. That works for you. That's not my thing, but I shouldn't know about it, so I can't judge you on
yeah, no, so this is he became my LPO. You were still there. It was literally right before you fucking retired. But he became my LPO in admin because they put me in admin because I was getting ready to get out as well. You know who I'm talking about?
it. I'm sure I
Yeah.
do. Was he a chief?
First name
No.
Sean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But dude, I'm hanging out with him and we had to run, we always had to run to Bremerton to the hospital to do our admin runs and pick shit up, drop shit off. And he's like, yeah, no, my husband. And I was like, what? He goes, my husband. And I was like, the fuck did you just say? Because you couldn't tell with him. And I'm like, fuck, cool, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I knew
it's
it right
that thing.
away,
Like,
dude.
he didn't put it. Well, fuck. And just so for the audience, this guy he had a calm with a V from Iraq, like Fallujah, like no bullshit. Like he
Yeah.
was a badass, but he didn't just put it out in your face. And I was like, okay, cool. All right. I was like, I would have never, but yeah, no, it's just that thing. It's like, cool. You like guns. Nick likes guns. I like guns. If you don't like guns, sorry, I own guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, man.
In
I
the
don't
old
know.
days, we just say,
Rabbit
"Hey,
hole.
fucking." We always just said, "Hey, I got dibs on the big spoon." You know what I'm saying? Like that's the only question: you the big
Ah,
spoon or the little spoon?
buddy, I know what you're saying. What's up?
Not gay underway. It's not queer away from the pier.
Hey, as long as we're wearing socks,
Well, gents,
Oh, that's the thing.
it's good.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, we're unfortunately running out of time, guys. We had a
Sorry. Yeah.
I love talking though with you, Doc. I'd actually like to try to start talking about current events with you on the regular. I like your outlook on things, and yeah, I'm super happy that Chris brought you on the show and introduced me to you, man. You're very, very knowledgeable, and it's good to see that we still have that element, in America. I mean,
He's lying.
But I don't know what to do either, bro. I don't. Again, I live in Oregon, where we have a huge homeless problem. Their answer is to decriminalize. Oh, too many people are going to jail for this. We're going to decriminalize that, and it's like a kid. Even in the military, my leadership style was like it's like having a kid, and I don't have any kids, but I grew up in a family of 5 kids, so I know what it's about. Your kid reaches for a cookie and you tell them no, and they reach for it again, you tell them no, and then eventually you got to smack their hand, right? And we've gotten away from that. Their answer is, oh, and don't get me wrong, our prison system that was the previous big money maker, right?
oh, I
Like,
know, yeah,
I mean, the death penalty to me is a real deal. When we on the ship, when we went to Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, you go to these gold souks with ridiculous gold everywhere, and there's a one security guard with a flashlight. Why? Because they cut your hand off for stealing. So you can only steal twice. It's hard to run with a necklace in your toes. But even in the military, it's all about the repercussions. There's people that have good morals and they follow the rules just because they feel it's the right thing to do. But then there's those people that they only follow the rules because they're in fear of the consequences.
damn,
And if there's no consequences, then we have chaos.
anarchy.
Yep. I mean, people on death row, somebody that killed 4 people, why the fuck are we paying to feed, clothe, and get them a master's degree in prison
And who's
and
paying?
get them a sex change and get them a sex
That's
change,
the new
you know?
thing. That's the new thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
are you
yeah.
fucking kidding me? Like,
Yeah,
oh my.
it's cruel and unusual. Well, let's see. They killed their victim over 4 days
Yeah,
of
what about
slowly
their 4
cutting on them.
victims? You know what I mean?
So what's a 7.62 round to the head? How is that cruel and unusual? I think
No,
that's
it's
pretty fucking. I think
saving a
that's
lot
pretty
of people
definitive. That's pretty definitive.
heartbreak and money. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cheap shit, man. I'll
Yeah.
donate the ammo.
Yeah, seriously. Shit,
So
not nowadays. Ammo's up there.
yeah,
Yeah,
no
I
kidding.
haven't been shooting in a while because I don't want to spend my shit.
I
Yeah,
got
seriously.
plenty in my house. Fucking hire me. Just put me down in the basement of the courthouse and have just fucking floor drain so the blood can go down there, and I'll just stand
There you
down
go.
there.
There you go.
Motherfucker. 10
Well,
cents around, I'm fine.
Chris has shot my 50. He's shot some of
Oh
my.
fuck yeah, I pissed you off too.
I have
Sorry,
2
dude.
of them now.
what, handguns?
No,
Oh
they're
no,
ARs.
he's
They're
got a
50
Beowulf.
Beowulf.
Ooh. Those things will chirp.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I started going off on it, and he goes, "Hey, dude, you realize that's
Those are
$1
over $1 a
I was
round,
like,
bro.
I'm like, fuck, my bad, dude.
Yeah, ever since I put 3 rounds in a mag before I hand it to somebody. That way they're not fucking blowing a 20 spot before I know it.
My fault. All right.
Well,
I paid you back. Fuck off.
HN1, I really appreciate you coming on Hard to Kill tonight. I hope
For having
we
you
get
back on.
yeah, we'll definitely be having you back on. I look forward to talking to you again, and stay safe out there, brother. We live in a crazy time, and you know, stay strapped, stay hard to
Oh, yeah.
kill, and hopefully we get to talk to you again in the future, my friend.
Yeah, man, take care of yourself, and I hope that the VA gets you the help that you need, and
Appreciate that, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, bro.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate
But there you
it.
have it, guys. Hard to Kill, episode 56 with Hn1 Jebin. Roger that. Have a good night, fellas.
See you guys.
See you, brother. Right.